I'm Caroline Tell. I'm the editorial director at Babe, which is Hatch's new lifestyle platform for all women on the pregnancy, pre-pregnancy, pregnancy, postpartum mother journey. I'm here with Alicia Waters, the Vice President of Kids and Growth Strategies at Crate & Kids. And I'm also here with Kim Doran, the Senior Content Merchandiser for Crate & Kids. So Kim, you design the rooms that end up getting photographed for the catalog and the website and...
Exactly. It's a complicated sounding title that really just means that.
I think it's super cool. I fancy myself a content merchandiser as well from time to time, but
we all
only on the site.
Yeah.
So yeah, we thought, this Hatch and Crate & Kids partnership is super exciting for us. We're two brands who care about community, care about women. We're fostering creativity, community, and we're just really excited to work with you guys. So thank you again for lending the time. And we're just excited to talk about nurseries. It's such a fun time in a woman's life as she sort of prepares for this stage and the room and everything that the room represents, and all the time that I think women are and babies and everyone's going to be spending in there. It's a lot more time than I think people realize at the onset. So that's super fun. So to everybody who's joining us on Zoom, just a few things to call out. Feel free to use the chat function at any time to ask questions during the event. We'll spend about 20 to 25 minutes just chatting with each other, and then we'll leave about 10 to 15 minutes at the end to answer any questions that come through. If you want to have a private question, feel free to use the Q&A option at the bottom of your screen. And to get started, if you wouldn't mind chatting where you're located and if you're pregnant, if you are, how far along you are, or if you've had a new baby, as well as when you gave birth, we can find out a little more about you and just get a sense of where you're at on the journey. That would be great. So we have Michelle from Texas, who's 29 weeks. We're excited to hear from all of you. And again, thank you for joining. We got some Chicago representing. We got some Houston, Texas, Louisville, Kentucky. Right on, Jersey. Love it. Cali. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you all for joining us. So again, we're chatting with Crate & Kids. We've got Alicia and Kim here. We're talking about how to create a nursery that really works for you and your space, whether it's gender neutral, whether that nursery is going to grow with you over time. Perhaps you might repurpose it for your second child, or a nursery that your baby can grow into as they become toddlers and children, a nursery that can foster creativity. And we're psyched to just get going. So Alicia, maybe you can start by just telling us, outside of the obvious, not finding out the sex of your baby, why do you suppose parents would design a gender neutral nursery? What do you think are some of the benefits there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I started in this role at Crate & Kids about a year ago. And actually, it's been interesting for me to see that that's gender neutral nurseries is the #1 trend we're seeing in baby. So we kind of wanted to understand why. So we've talked to parents a lot, and as part of research and just getting to know and keep in touch with our customer base. And what parents are really telling us is that it actually stems from something that's kind of part of their own upbringing. It's sort of swinging the pendulum. A lot of parents feel like they were helicoptered as kids themselves. And so they're looking to do the opposite and provide their kids with a really free and expressive upbringing. And so it actually is stemmed in something that's kind of deep and societal. They feel like they don't want their kids to ever feel like they're being put on a track. And so where that plays into decor and nursery is that they're choosing purposely, making the decision not to go with really gender specific colors like pink for girls and blue for boys. And they're not good or bad, but in their minds, they feel like that might put their kid on a track that they want their child to figure that out on their own. So they're purposely trying to go with sort of a more neutral or, lots of different elements in a room versus one specific thing like the blue science boys room, that sort of thing. So I think that's sort of why it's happening. I think in terms of side benefits that they're seeing is that they're finding that when they do that, then first of all, people are having kids when they're older now. I was one of them. And I think you've spent your whole life cultivating your sense of style. And so it's nice to be for your baby's room, your nursery, where you're right, you're sitting in that chair for, so many hours every day and every week, for that to be more of an extension of your style. So to kind of match the rest of the home a little bit better. So I think that's one of the reasons why they tend to like that. Another reason is what you sort of mentioned, that if they want to have a second baby in the future, or they want that, nursery to suddenly become, after the child leaves, to become a guest room or a different room, I think it gives them more options that way. So that's why they're choosing palettes and furniture that really fit that purpose.
Totally. Yeah, that makes total sense. And Kim, maybe you can tell us, when you're looking to design a gender neutral nursery, what's step one? What's that sort of foundation, the first thing parents are looking for, or the first thing that they want to know about when kind of really mapping out what the room's going to look like?
Yeah, I think there's really not a hard and fast rule, but my mind automatically goes to Pinterest. And I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know, but I would just make yourself a board and start pinning away, and you'd probably start to see a common theme, whether you're attracted to a certain wall color or a certain maple wood tone on a crib or a fluffy cozy rug. I think you'd start to see something emerge, and then I think just run with it, and you have a starting point, and as long as you're inspired, just go with it. And then you'll start to see your room come to life. But the next question I hear a lot is furniture selection and placement for the room. So I think it's I feel nurseries are oftentimes repurposed spaces in your house. So the space is going to dictate what you can really put in there. So I would start with the layout and what you really think you need. And I think those three main pieces is a safe place for your baby to sleep, the bassinet or the crib, a glider, and a changing table. So start there with those three main pieces, and that will help you narrow it down as to what you're looking for. And then with the selection of those pieces, versatility, functionality, and growing with the family is what seems to be really important for new parents. A lot was for me too. So I think starting with those characteristics will also help you narrow down what you're looking for. So and we're going to get into some of that in a bit too, about what those pieces actually are. But
so it's not necessarily anymore about having to start with the rug or kind of these traditional design rules that, it's more about just finding something that kind of speaks to you or that you feel really inspired by, and then just going from there.
I think so, yeah. And I think it would pigeonhole you a little bit to say okay, I can only do this wall color in here. And you could always change it out later too. I feel like there's a lot of, at least in my experience, I'm moving pieces around my house a lot and moving different rugs in and trying out once I repaint a wall, especially during quarantine, you have some more time. You can try out that rug that was in your bedroom in the nursery, or so I would think, just start with the overall inspiration and then go from there.
That's so fun. I love that. So speaking of which, when it comes to color, print, fabrics, really the fun that make up a nursery, if you want to stay on the gender neutral side, how do you kind of incorporate all the fun elements without making it feel bland and super neutral? How can you maybe add those pops of color or print while maintaining a gender neutral look?
Yeah,
Sorry.
And Alicia, feel free to jump in whenever you
Yeah.
want. But I think it's definitely possible to make it fun without leaning towards a certain gender. So you could start with that neutral base, like a gray or a white or a black furniture or black walls even. And then you could bring in the art through, or the color through art and bedding and the rug. Maybe your rug's colorful and later when your kid's over it or you're over it, you could repurpose it in the play space. I think removable wallpaper is a way to add something like a trendy item, or you could be your boldest self in a temporary kind of way. So you could see behind me, and Alicia has an awesome wallpaper behind her, but
Sure
I'm in my kids' playroom, and I put up this wallpaper because I know maybe I won't like it in 3 years, but it's temporary, and it's adding the color that I was craving in here. So I also think there's so many shades of colors out there, as all the new parents on the line probably know when looking for a paint color for your room, that I think you could challenge yourself to go with a color outside of your normal comfort zone for the room. Like I was thinking like a dusty mauve for a boy might be super cool, or a green blue for a girl. Like we don't have to accept those stereotypical colors for genders. So I'd say just go with what you love and what you want to look at every day, because you're going to be there, like you're saying, Caroline, a lot. So make it something you just feel happy being surrounded by. So
yeah, and I feel like
great. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I think you make such a good point about starting on Pinterest, because that's what you love. And I feel like it's easy to get caught up in, an Instagrammable nursery, and making everything look perfect, when at the end of the day, this is a room that you need to have really positive energy in. This is like where you're introducing your child to the world. So I feel like it should just make you happy. And then you can always find ways to really zhuzh it up and make it look great. And those pieces can be beautiful, but it should stem from your own love of color or whatever it is that you're into.
yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, think about, how old your child is when they first express like what remotely is an opinion, let alone about a wallpaper or a color. I mean, it's really about what you have to love, I think, because it takes them a long time to even realize, any decor decisions.
Yes.
And Alicia, can you speak to furniture a bit? Does it make a difference in designing out a gender neutral nursery?
I think so. I think, if you want to get that versatility that, we both sort of have mentioned, and you want to be able to repurpose the room for another child or for, another state, I think you have to pick something that's fairly, that has some longevity, that is neutral. So, or that's really cool and can be used in another room. So examples of that. One example that comes to mind is we have a glider that's Leanne Ford that we just launched that's called the Snoozer, that you got to check it out. It's so stunning. It's channeled and it's not really tall. It's a little bit shorter, but it's really, really comfy. So I think something like that, my children are 10 and 13, but I'm thinking about buying that for my bedroom because I think it looks really cool. So if you choose, for example, a glider that's a little bit more modern or cool, you might be able to use it in a different room. I also think something like natural wood tones can be repurposed later. They don't feel, you can make the room still feel very childlike and beautiful and soft, but then you can use it later in an adult room. So I think, or in a kid's room as they age, into older ages. The other piece that I think comes to mind is lighting. I think we've seen a big trend of like big scale, really cool lighting. So I think that's something that you can continue to use over time. And I know that's not furniture, but I think that's an important one as well.
Yeah, and so I guess, what would you say are some elements of nursery design that parents often miss? What do you think is a super important facet to having a stylish, possibly gender neutral nursery that is just often overlooked for either of you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that what comes to mind first is art. I think that's a super easy way to like bring in personality and style to the room without like going towards one gender or another. I think it can become a really personal thing, but it's customizable. So I'm thinking I ended up framing my husband's Ninja Turtle watercolor painting from when he was a kid in my daughter's room. And it just like, it adds, there's a memory attached and it adds color and it's fun. And, or like, I felt like her room was craving some like bright neon colors. So I painted some geometric shapes and framed that up, or you could hang it from a little picture hanger. You like a lot of different things can become art, or hit up your local craft store and grab some letters and paint them in that color that you think the room's craving. And it automatically like makes it feel a little bit more finished, to just put things on the wall. I think people are scared to commit to putting things on the wall sometimes, but it's a pretty easy way to make it feel like that finishing touch. I also think like bringing style in through the furniture is key. So if you're into the hard lines or soft curves, like Alicia was saying, the snoozer glider is very curvy and adds that like soft touch. You feel like that might be attractive to you.
Right.
But I think we have so much beautiful furniture at Creighton Kids that adds a lot of style just through that. Doesn't have to be super simple, or you can have fun with it.
I agree. The only other thing I can think of is storage. You could be really creative with your storage. We have all sorts, you probably have seen or check out baskets being used as storage, even hampers. They're really beautiful hampers now that you can stuff a million stuffed animals and toys into, that just really add polish to the room, but they are functional as well. So I think that's another area that you can look at. We have some hampers that are shaped like giraffes, or flowers, or they're baskets and hampers have gotten very creative now, and they're great places to hide toys.
Yeah.
Blankets.
Yeah, and it makes for easy cleanup also. You just kind of shove
and the
it all
child
in.
can, as your child gets older, they can reach, which is also nice because they sit on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
They can help with cleanup.
Yeah, and I love Kim. I just love your outlook on that if you don't like it, you can switch it out. I mean, I feel like with furniture and with room decor, we often take it so seriously that these purchases and these decisions need to last for so long. But there is a feeling of transience at times that you can really just swap something out or change up a wallpaper or. Yeah, I love that. And it's something I don't often think about, I think, in my own home. But it's true. You can just have a good time with it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you want it to last for a little bit, but I think that tends to hold me up when I'm thinking about it too much. So I'm like, okay, what do I just love right now? And just put it together, and it tends to just work itself out. So
Totally. Alicia, I have a question. So in terms of themes, do you feel like you need one? Do we have to have them? If you do love a theme, is it possible to do it in a gender neutral way? You look at some of these kind of Instagram nurseries, and sometimes the theme feels a bit like hit on the head. Maybe there's a way to do a theme in a way that feels a little more nuanced, or
I think it's always optional. You don't need a theme for your nursery. It does definitely put you on a bit of a more traditional path. But that said, to your point, you can do it in kind of a cool way. Like, for example, some of the themes that we're seeing now from parents are things like just nature as a theme. So we just put in we recently had been running in our catalogs and our advertising like a mural of a mountain on the back wall of a nursery that was just stunning, where it's like, and then there is a rug that sort of mimics the look of mountains, but isn't really mountains. So it's like you can evoke something that you love, like nature, that's not a theme that's like being in space, that's so not as literal. The other piece is, there are things that are more gender neutral, in terms of traditional thinking, like animals, et cetera, that you could put in that I think makes sense. The other piece is that you don't have to cover the whole room in the theme. I think that was the big thing, is that before the theme would extend to like the rug and the lamp and the sheeting and everything else. And now you can just have one element or multiple themes, just things that are based, maybe they're all tonal in a certain color palette, but they're, it's different theme elements. So I think you can think about it really, really creatively. I don't think there's one answer. I feel like it should be about what you like. Leanne Ford, we just launched her last week, so she's top of mind for me. The collection, kind of a theme that was interwoven a bit, was music. So she's got like a guitar, she did a guitar rug for us, but it's very subtle. I don't even, it's not like hitting you over the head with it. And then the sheeting has, I think it has roller skates on it, or Doc Martens and music, and it's more like rock and roll. And then there's a motorcycle ride-on toy. So it's like that's a pretty soft theme. You know, there's a toy, a sheet, and but it's still, the room still reflects things that she loves. So I'd say that's how I go about theme, is like think of things that you love and weave in elements in some way that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. So within sort of this gender neutral look, how would you attempt to design a nursery that can then grow with your child or with your family? You know, that perhaps your baby will stay in for years to come. That you might rotate a different kid of a different sex into that room at some point. Yeah, how do you sort of wrap your head around that?
I can jump in, Kim, but then come after me with any thoughts that you have. Two things that come to mind. You know, we've talked about it sort of high level, but I think from a practical standpoint, I know I always want to get my money's worth. And so I like things like that we have 2-in-1 styles that are cribs that convert into toddler beds, or we even have 3-in-1 cribs that convert to toddler beds and then full beds. So things like that, I think, are great ways, if you choose kind of a neutral palette again, to be able to move that on to the next child. The other piece is versatility. So things like you're buying a dresser that can double as a changing table if you just buy the matching topper. So I think doing things like that really kind of stretch your dollars. What else? Kim, do you have any ideas about that I missed?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head, where I would recommend when you buy your crib to just buy that converting kit right away. It's just really the toddler rail that goes onto the side of the bed, just in case that crib might go out of stock when you're ready to make your crib into a toddler bed. And then, yeah, I love that changing table option on top of the dresser, which I think is like a newish thing maybe, where you don't have to have the separate changing table from the dresser. And then it's really just a beautiful frame that matches the dresser and whatever wood tone or white finish it's in, to kind of like complete it. The changing pad goes right inside. And then in that triumphant moment when you potty train your kid, you could remove it and then it just becomes a dresser. So it's a pretty awesome thing that I recommend to everybody. So I think the other thing, were you kind of just saying like space saving, or just something that will grow up with your kid? Is it a little bit of both, you think? I think that the gliders that we have one glider that has the power function in it. It's called Kiwi, and you could charge your phone right there, which I think is genius. That's the only thing that would keep me awake in those late nights. So I was looking at my phone. So you have that right beside you in the arm. And almost all of our gliders are designed in a way with the arms are at like the perfect height to hold your baby, nurse or bottle feed your baby. But not only that, most of them are like on the smaller side than what I think of a traditional glider. So it could go into your living room, or your bedroom, like Alicia was talking about, looking at one for her bedroom. So it doesn't have to stay in the baby room. It can move around your house. Almost all of our furniture, I feel like, can. It's not that plastic car-shaped toddler bed. You know, it's like beautifully designed things that can really end up anywhere in your space. So.
And Kim, what are some other tips you have on purchasing, you know, a great rug or a great glider or a crib? You know, has there been somewhat of an evolution in these pieces? Are there, you know, I know you mentioned the phone charger, but other kind of improvements on this furniture?
Yeah, I think Creighton Kids, I've been with the company about 7 years now, and I feel like we were one of the first to have those matching toddler rails for the bed that you could pick up at the time of purchase. But besides that, I really love, like, one of my go-tos with nurseries, especially small space nurseries, are we have these book ledges, which I feel like you see a lot of places now, but you can go vertical with them and face your books out on them, and it almost becomes like a piece of art in the room. I think there's so many beautifully designed books, and you could arrange them by color or by style, and it's like a bookshelf with taking up 0 room. It's a very small footprint, if any. So that's one of my favorite like go-tos when I think of people's nurseries. And or you could just, you know, if you have not a lot of space, go with that more tall bookcase so that you can just go vertically in your room without taking up more side to side area. But no, I think that crib to toddler bed, the changing table topper, and the gliders are are one of the best inventions. I think they made my nursery like super easy to use, and I feel like I don't have to repurchase these pieces of furniture anytime soon. So
You mentioned kind of looking high in a room. Do you have any other kind of go-to hacks in terms of storage in a nursery or
yeah,
organization?
I love our book bins that we have in fun colors. It could add that pop of color or fun shapes. It's a kid-friendly piece because they're low to the ground. You could store a ton of books in them, and then you could have the book ledges above it or something, so you can really, make it a showstopper in the room that you have, like your little library there. We just had, I'm thinking of like this truck bookcase that's really, really cute. That's wood and white, the two-tone. So I also love, if you're lucky to have a closet in your room, I store tons of things in my closet. We have these hanging storage organizers that are perfect for crib sheets and baby blankets and towels, that keep them nice and neat, and the canvas drawer organizers for all those little tiny things that would just like roll around in your drawer. They just really help you feel put together and like like you got all your ducks in a row. So yeah, I think those are the main things I can think of. Alicia, if you have anything else as far as storage.
I think that the only other things that come to mind are things like the West Storage Crib. We just launched a crib. We're launching more and more furniture that has versatility or multifunction in it. So that thing is a 3-in-1 storage piece because it has drawers, it has the crib, obviously, and then it has a little open bookshelf on the side. So that's a piece that you don't really need much else. So I think that that's a really good one if you're in a small space. I think as your baby gets older, we have some things like nesting tables, a nesting table that where the seats actually fit under the table, so it takes up a minimal footprint. Because I think as soon as your kids become toddlers, you start moving into that that mindset of needing to find them places to sit and hang out and do their important work, but not taking up a huge footprint. So there's two other ideas, but you'll see more and more from us in the future in terms of products that are really versatile and perform more than one function, because people do need that. We do hear from parents that, to Kim's point earlier, a lot of the nurseries and kids' rooms tend to be in kind of the quirky spaces of the house, the spaces that are small or that have the dormers or, that have some quirky fun elements, which you can play up, but then you just have to think strategically about storage and a lot of things that Kim was talking about before.
Actually, yeah, that's a great segue just into my last question, which is how you approach decor, Alicia, in designing out a nursery that you really want to last.
Yeah, I almost think so. I guess my initial thought is that some of it I think let's not make it last. Like to Kim's point, I love her point about removable wallpaper. So just, play with it in the moment and do things you like, knowing that you can repurpose it later, just like paint. In terms of designing a nursery to last with decor, I'd say, again, lighting is a really great way to bring in a really expressive design element. So I like hanging pendant lights, chandeliers, or a floor lamp that adds some sort of unexpected, touch of glam in the room. We're selling like hotcakes on fabrications like rattan for lighting, woven lighting pendants. I think people are dying to bring the outside in. So those have been really, really strong. And I think those would be easily repurposed in any part of your house. So you could put those lights in a foyer or all different places. And then I think, Kim mentioned this earlier, but I think in general, some really great statement, wall art, I think is very cool. So if you think about it, you're spending 90% of your time in that nursery. So if there's a piece you really fall in love with that you would normally put in your living room, maybe for a few years it's in your nursery instead, because that's where you're spending a lot of your time. And then you can eventually move it to another room of your choice. But I would say just throw the rules out the window. This room should be all about your heart and where you want to be and just great energy, and just kind of go with what you love. Oh, I have one more idea. One more thing. Wooden toys. We love wooden toys and we really stand behind them. Obviously they don't go out of style, they're biodegradable, they're made to last. But I think what I love about them is that I remember I did this in my kids' nurseries, is we would display them, because they make for beautiful displays. Then you're teaching your kids to clean up and they're displaying them. And then they also can get passed down, which is, I think, lovely.
Yeah, and I thought of something that's great. I love the wooden toys as decor is so fun because they add that bit of playfulness that the nursery is calling for, and yeah, they're just beautifully designed. But I was thinking about a newish thing in the marketplace are performance rugs. And I think people are confused with the name performance rugs, but really they're just like super durable and you don't have to worry about that spill on there. You could blot it right up. Some of them can even go in the washing machine, which is really cool. And the designs are still really awesome. Like they don't look like a indoor outdoor thing. We have some that are like in fun shapes with color blocking, and I think it's pretty genius for for a nursery space where you have things that might spill sometimes. So, and a baby crawling around eventually that wreak havoc.
Well, thank you so much, ladies. I'm going to take some questions from our guests, our registrants who are all watching. So one person said that they're interested in tips on purchasing furniture and other items that will grow with the baby. Like convertible cribs that become toddler beds. I think you might have mentioned some of those, Kim, but if there's any others off the top of your head that have this real sort of longevity to them.
Yeah, there's a couple that go from crib to toddler to full bed that Alicia mentioned. One's called like the mid-century, and that's definitely the most like versatile one or transitional look to it. And then we have one called Wren that goes, so like the back of the crib becomes the full bed headboard. And I think that's really brilliant if you want it to last, for, I don't know, 18 years, would you say? But I think for other furniture and other items that will grow with the baby, the dresser that we spoke about, and like, I really think it surprised me how long I kept my upholstered chair in the room, because you do kind of need, especially if you keep your crib to toddler bed for a while, you need some place to like snuggle up with your baby to read a book, or not even a baby anymore, maybe a kindergartner. It's nice to have like a reading spot in the room. So I'd say that your glider is going to last you pretty much forever, because then you can move it into your living room like we were talking about too, because they're so comfy and beautifully designed. I'm trying to think of some other items that might grow up with the kid.
I think especially about palette, there's things like that Hampshire olive. So if you check that out online, that's just a really beautiful olive green that if you bought that, if you bought the crib and the dresser, I think that dresser could transition all the way through, Yeah, someone just said obsessed with that color. It's a great color. Yeah, it can really transition. I think you can do it with some really beautiful soft tones if you want, or you could do it with navy. There's a lot of ways that you could play that, but I think that's a smart move. We also have the King collection, which is a crib, and that's a beautiful dresser that has acrylic handles, that is also very sophisticated. That's sort of like bringing that extension of your style into the room. If you go that route, then I think you'll use those pieces too.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, where you don't have to feel like you have to get that dresser that matches the crib, because the dresser will live on. So any of like the painted accent dressers, like the olive, or we have a blush now too, or green, dark green, you could mix and match a different wood tone bed with it, or a painted white bed later on, when you're ready to upgrade to a bed. So yeah, that sparked that. Same with nightstands. I feel like you'll have your nightstand or side table next to your glider, but then you could move it next to your big kid bed once you get into that time of life, or you can move it to your living room. Or I feel like those things can move all around your house too, and provide some storage for you wherever you need it.
Yeah, and I think something else, I never did this, but I keep hearing the term nursing nook come back to me. So women are sort of creating spaces within the nursery for them to nurse or to pump. And so whether that's, a side table next to a glider that might have a box of tissues and water and an iPhone charger, or everything that they might need in that moment, to sit and nurse or to pump. And, then that side table can move out to become a table in the living room, or, something like that, so that it can all work within the space.
Totally.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I guess, speaking of which, what are some of the best ways to maximize a small space?
Yeah, I think paring it down to the bare essentials of what you need first. It's really not a ton that you need from the get-go. So I would say the very like first essential thing is just a safe space for your baby to sleep. So we offer a couple smaller footprint cribs that can fit in a small space. One is called the Baby Leto origami crib, and it's small, but it would still fit a bigger baby, like not just a newborn. So, and it's on casters. So if you need to like roll it into your bedroom for a night or something, you have that option as well. And then I think another way to maximize your space in a small space are those book ledges. I just love them. So you could just go as high as you want. You could also hang like shelves just up near the top of the ceiling and store baskets up there with out of season clothes, or just use your vertical space as much as you can. And yeah, and using those toys as decor on shelves, using the vertical space, you know, like you don't have to like store those things away. You could just, they're pretty to look at. So, and then that, I just keep coming back to that, change your top on top of a dresser, just because it's just a game changer out there. So
You know
We
what else
actually
I would
still
say
have ours
too?
on,
Yeah.
and it's just this pretty, obviously the pad's off, but then, you know, it's just kind of a pretty framing of the top of the table that my kids put their toys on. And
oh yeah, you could just corral your little items up there. It's
yeah.
The only other
Um,
thing I'd build on to that is that too, if you have a small space, I know my son had a very small nursery. So then we took our staircase and underneath we made it like a little play closet area where we took the doors off a closet and we wallpapered it and put in all sorts of fun things. So I think I'd say outside of the nursery, just remember that they're a little, like they're so tiny, you know, and even when they start to grow and when they're 1, 2, 3, they you can find tiny little spaces and really trick them out, and have fun with that too, with you know soft seating, etc., wallpaper, just and toys. And that's all they really need. To Kim's point, you don't. I just would say don't feel like you have to accomplish everything in one room. You can make several little spaces throughout your home.
Yeah, definitely. They live all throughout your house.
They take it over.
that's for sure. Someone had asked about designing a room for grandkids, which I think is super sweet.
That's
Any thoughts there?
that's very thoughtful. I was just thinking about again, like kind of just like making a comfy spot but not going overboard. Like you just need that safe spot. And I think going back to that Baby Leto crib, it actually folds up too. So if your you know grandchild is not there all the time, you can kind of fold that up and put it off to the side if you're repurposing the room that they're staying in. And I think just like a comfy spot to change a diaper too is pretty key for when I go to my parents and thinking about what I use. I mean, they're just going to be so happy to be there and have some help. So, yeah, I think just like a crib with maybe 1 or 2 crib sheets, and a changing spot. Yeah, is there anything you could think of, Alicia, that
I feel like you got it. Yeah.
with just bare essentials, but it really will make all the difference for your child to bring their child there. I think that would make it very comfortable. So
Someone had asked if you can speak more to the style, longevity, and neutrality of white furniture versus brown wood. I think with dressers and cribs.
yeah, so the style neutrality
And longevity, yeah.
and longevity. Yeah, I wonder versus brown wood. So it probably depends on if it's like a solid wood or a laminate, because I think you could see that a painted white furniture might chip a little bit if used too much. But I found like we actually offer paint markers with our white furniture, or you can get them through customer service, and you could touch up anywhere that might chip. I mean, it's not going to happen right away, but with lots and lots of use, I could see it happening. I mostly am talking about my play table that I'm thinking of right now that has a white paint on it. But I just think with kind of committing to a wood tone, you might find down the road that you want to mix in another wood tone. So I feel like white you have more of options when it comes to mixing and matching later. But I'm thinking, I'm trying to think of like, I feel like you can mix and match wood tones as well in certain spaces. So yeah, I don't know, Alicia, do you have any thoughts with that?
No, I think that's right. It's somewhat of a personal preference, I think, too. It's just sort of white can be sweeter, and you can layer if you want to do a lot of pattern and layer that in. That might be easier on a white, backdrop of furniture. And neutral, I don't know. I think neutral wood can kind of grow with your child as they get older. You can move it into an adult space very easily, probably more easily to me than white, but I think
Yeah.
both are great options. They're both top sellers for us, I would say too. Although we do
Yeah.
sell a lot of painted furniture too, but I'd say white and wood are always our top.
Yeah. And I think white, can feel, I think going with wood is a lot warmer of a look, and then white can be more like clean and modern, I guess you could say. So it does depend on your space, and if you feel like it needs to have more of a cozy, like warm tone brought in, or if you want it to be super like a contrast with the white. Yeah, but either are pretty neutral and will last you a long time. I don't think they're going out of style anytime soon. So
And yeah, and we've been doing a lot of textural looks. So Kim is the genius on this, but we've been doing a lot of textural looks, and those are really nice on wood, I think. We also have been selling a lot of black recently, not necessarily in cribs, but certainly in kids' beds, which is interesting. That's a trend that we're seeing, whether it's in accent pieces and or furniture. We've been seeing black. Again, it just plays, it lets the textiles really shine through, and then you can do a lot of layering. Another trick that I've seen that I love is just these cozy floors, just remembering that your baby's going to be crawling around on your floor. So you want a really, really cozy rug, and even layered rugs are really nice for extra padding and coziness.
definitely gives your room a lot of good texture, and there's going to be a time in your baby's life that they're going to be entertained by the rug. They're going to be playing on it, and they're going to love those tassels or that fluffy area. So
sticking them in their mouths. And I have another question here about selecting decor, especially in terms of toys. You mentioned wooden toys. This guest wanted to know how you balance color that might be great for child development, that might be bright or black and white, with also that personal preference of maybe a more mature or muted color toy.
Yeah, that's a good question.
That's a really good question.
If I were to show you around the room I'm sitting in, which I might not because it's a little bit, it's been played in, but we have definitely a mix of both the toys that I think are just so lovely, like hand painted Grimm's blocks and wooden rattan play chairs, and then I also have like a lot of plastic play school type things in here, and I tend to just, when I'm cleaning up the space, I will store those things in its own bin, and I have a baby bin and then a toddler bin for my two kids, and because they definitely will accumulate these things and want to play with the things that light up and make noise, and so I kind of just keep those beautiful things out on display, and then the other things are there and they know how to access them, but they might just be kind of tucked away in a pretty bin for when I'm cleaning up. But yeah,
we have a brand that we sell called Jeannot. It's a French brand, and Jeannot has some really cool, where you don't have to pick between the wooden and kind of the development. There's like the shapes and colors dog. There's the rainbow turtle. There's some really cool wooden toys that they make that do have some learning elements to them. So I would just poke around and see if you see anything in there that might satisfy both ends.
Yes, that, and we also have some plan toys and hape toys that do that too, like the cutting fruit, or I'm thinking of the play toy grill that are pretty, and my kids love them, and they're on display as well. So yeah, you're right. There are brands out there now that are doing both. Appealing to all.
Do you have any thoughts on tents and teepees and giant ball pits and, kind of these bigger moments in a space? Do you find that they grow with children?
I think so, definitely. Kim, I'd love to hear from you too. But I think they're wonderful for kids in terms of just providing them with, as they get a little bit older, pretty quickly, I feel like they start to want their own personal space that's safe, that they can just go hang in. And so I think that that's just a great way to carve out a little bit of space. What we're seeing from a trend perspective, I can speak to, is that we're seeing those being used more and more in shared spaces. So like in the living room, just having the tent there so that the kids, so that your baby's toys or your toddler's toys are all in that little tent and their stuff is kind of in the tent, and then it sort of puts their things in one place. So that's kind of nice on both ends from a clutter standpoint and from the child's, interest standpoints. I think they're really, really great. And some of them, there are some that have really fun themes, and I know we're developing some really fun ones that I wish were out right now, that are coming out very soon that you'll be seeing. But we have, Kim, I don't know if you have any specific recommendations around the playhouses, but there are lots of really cool theme ones. I think that's one where it's fun to bring in a theme, so that your child can really play act, or you can get a neutral one that they can make anything they want. That can be the magician's, station one day and a farmer's market the next day. So I think that either way works.
Yeah, I think those kinds of things are so good for open-ended play that will, like you're saying, become one thing one day and another thing the next. And what's great about the teepees we offer right now are they do fold down. So you can store them away and then bring them out and then they're new and fun again. But I personally love and want our greenhouse tent that has like a sheer top, and it's so beautiful and bright, and it just looks like it has a lot of play value in the way that it looks like a little cottage. It's really cute, and I wouldn't mind having it out for everyone to see as well. It's real pretty. So
I did know one mom, one of my mom friends, who would take all of her children's toys. Maybe she had just a portion of her kids' toys that she would actually take out for 3 months and then put in storage for 3 months and then bring them back out and rotate.
mm-hmm.
If you have the discipline and the ability to do that, I think it's a fabulous idea, because I feel like kids end up playing with such few amounts of toys and then you end up amassing them. So I think that's I would say also don't feel like you need a million toys. They're going to play with a smaller amount. And if you have a lot of toys, then you might want to rotate them in. I think that's really fun.
Yeah.
And reduces clutter too.
Yeah, it's the old birthday party trick, right?
Yeah.
Where you let them open about 3 and then stock the rest away,
Yeah.
if they're still young enough to not catch on.
Trick too. Yes.
We're having a Lego issue in our house. There's just Legos upon Legos upon Legos. So I'll have to see what you guys have in terms of Lego storage, but that's our big thing right now.
Yeah.
And someone had asked if they should repurpose their 2-year-old's items for, I guess, their second, or if they should buy new.
Oh, I absolutely think you should repurpose what you can. And it sounds like not too many years have gone by either, where it's probably still in like really great shape. So yeah, I would say for sure. And I'm trying to think, when I had my second kid, it helped that I moved. So I just never set back up her crib, but, and I just set it up for the baby, and that was kind of like a quick, easy transition. It just never got set up for her. But if you're talking about the crib that you're wanting to give that over to the baby, there's a lot of good articles I can send about transitioning from the crib to the big kid bed in case of having a baby. That doesn't make it feel like you're kind of shortchanging your 2-year-old and giving it over. So I can share that with you, Caroline, if you're sending out any sort of update after this. But yeah, I think you should definitely repurpose, and in the best case situation, your 2-year-old's gonna love seeing it and the new baby using whatever it might be. So
great. And lastly, are there any fun toys that you're looking forward to gifting this year? I know you mentioned some of those brands that kind of toe that line between stylish and functional, but yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff I want to buy. There's this beautiful little armoire that's like a suitcase that opens up, and there's a little plush bunny and I think bear or something with little clothes on a hanger, and I just think it's so fun. I'm probably going to want to play with it more than she is, but yeah. And I'm thinking of wooden blocks for my baby. There's so much fun. That little stacking turtle is so cute, and the colors are going to fit perfectly in my nursery. Yeah, there's a lot of great things. more to come too as we get closer to holiday. But
Yeah, we'll be launching our assortment for holiday soon. I'm obsessed with that Leanne motorcycle ride-on toy. I mean, it is just beautiful.
yes,
So
that
fun.
is a great thing that will live in your house for a long time too. It's different and it's like an art piece.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, ladies, so much. And thank you to everybody out there for joining us. We are going to be sending a follow-up email. I know some of you had asked for specific links and products, and so we'll be sending all of that information. Also in that email, we'll have some exclusive perks for you, as well as a recording of this event if you wanted to rewatch it or forward it on. But thank you so much, Alicia and Kim. We so appreciate your time. And yeah, we just can't wait to do something again soon with you guys. So thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you
having us. Yeah, it's so cool. Technology is so cool to see. I love seeing all those due dates popping up and where everyone is. So it's so cool to talk to people like this.
I agree. Thank you so much. It's fun to see all these due dates and all these, and to create a community like this. Love it.
Totally. Thank you guys. We'll talk soon. Thank you, everybody.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.